InShalla and Ashe. Blessings to you, and more importantly, happy Samhain. Welcome to the Daily Snippet. It's holistic Sha'medium and subtle energy surgeon Tonya D, and welcome to my show. And also, welcome to the end of the harvest season and the beginning of winter, or the darker half of the year. The celebrations of doing divinations, divining, feasting, and even the bonfires. So Samhain literally means the summer's end and kicking off the Celtic New Year, a time of both death and rebirth, which is super cool because it's also the Pluto energy. I just finished my Musing Moon meditation kind of podcast, and oh boy, did I go over. It's like almost an hour and a half long. So yeah, be sure to tune into that. But this is symbolic of the end of the harvest, the bounty, and the beginning of the cold, dark winter that could possibly kind of bring us challenges or a bounty of them, if you will. So it's actually more of a significant message of the things that might have been haunting our inner world for our entire life that are ending. That's kind of the energy of the day, the ghost in the darkness, this unconscious energy that you might have repeated. It's subconscious kind of in a way, and you've repeated it from a past life or an alternative life even. So how does this happen? Well, ultimately, you are the decider of your reality, and you get to draw the bridge. The drawbridge can't be let down or even broken. So it's the death of your past that ultimately will allow your soul to come alive. So with a new beginning, I say, let's celebrate the victory. It's the baby steps, which is actually a bigger step than we often actually give ourselves credit for. So I'm actually going to dedicate today to the other world, the fairies, the beings unseen, the magic on the thin side of the veil. So stay tuned for a snippet to offer this evening, a ritual around the magic of a fire, even a small candle, or even an actual bonfire. And look at that elemental energy finally today. Water. Can you even believe it? Have you ever felt so thirsty in your life? So we have this yang and yin water. The rat is the yin water, but this yang energy of the day, yang water. And with the rat and also the ox at the hour of the pig, that's actually going to bring in the water frame today. So I guess I am super excited about water. I can't even muse about the element to bring in, but I really think her goddess nature, the transformation of it all, I'm ready for the brisk change of a breeze. Hel, the queen of nature, Anu and her daughter, Tawatha, and just make sure if you do any offerings or rituals, you bring in the queen herself, or at least I would. So with the energy of today, it actually might be a bit challenging at first to draw the bridge. The veil is at its thinnest. However, when you draw that bridge, the magic on the other side, freedom rings. So the little things that are refined and adjusted, fine-tuned even, where necessary, the best thing to do is really meditate and sense these new aspects within yourself, within your beingness. You might feel a bit shaken, not stirred on the inside as you integrate this magic as well. So blessed be. I would meditate for sure. So it's time to really take charge, be the cook, be the boss. Your own inner prime minister should actually be the curator today. The chef should be you. And you might have even got up feeling a little bossy, or maybe even went to bed feeling like a boss. Overly demanding of yourself, or just plain bossy. It doesn't really matter. So if you felt, or you feel actually, if you feel the weight bearing down on your shoulders, it really is easy to fall into the traps, the mouse traps of being like self-critical, in the river of denial, or even closing off your mind. So, how can your third eye create with your mind closed off to the magic of the universe, the village? So all of these symptoms can be evaded if we connect to the channel of our feelings first, the sacral, and cleanse it, if you will. So if this is you, really connect to that channel and see if your soul really feels that way. and utilize your emotional field, your energetic field, to see if your heart really feels that way. And if you don't, you have to go ask the inner part of your soul. So, what does the soul aspect of you feel like inside of you? So, today really is an energetic day to recreate the framework, the body of your prime directive. So, it might be something very articulate or something you need to be more flexible with, because we got two energies of water here. And we have a lot of yang earth, yin earth. So it's kind of the balance between the two. Be flexible, yin energy. So whatever it is, it's this inner field that those inner trust issues that need to some upcycling. They need that to change, creating a bounty of trust within yourself. So when we feel safe and secure on the inner side of us, our inside selves, the sense of security kind of radiates on the outside of ourselves. So, which at the current thread lines, it's kind of this bit of this rancid feeling to trust the supposed people in charge, or at least, I kind of feel that way. There's weird shift happening, and I myself, I have issues of trust with the cabinets that be, I'm not going to lie. However, I do authentically trust myself, my inner world. I feel safe. I'm in my body. I do need to upcycle my nutrition and get back on my path. That's been kind of an experience within the experience. So today could be a day where I chop at those habits that I picked up during the experience that created patterns that ultimately limited my sense of safety and security in my body, the beingness inside of me, integrity of healthy eating. So today, energetically, is that ending for me, and my message is to stick to that memo. Unless I decide inside myself to revive it again and go down that path. But it's like peaks and valleys, right? Just allowing our feelings to be the water that guides us to that river of safety, and just kind of pay attention to them, pay attention to the flow. I find they usually don't let me down, but it's time to create positive soul credit and acknowledge the shifts that you have been manifesting since, say, 6 months ago or whenever, the shifts that you have been manifesting, and treat yourself at a higher vibration and escalate that vibration, that energy, that frequency. So it's time to really be the queen. So just be ready to commit to the outcome that changes and how you're feeling day to day as we begin a new year today with this veil so thin. So I would probably do some New Year wishes today myself. Actually, I know I'm going to. So who says the new year is really January 1st anyway, right? So as you be inside of yourself today and muse about how it feels to be you through and through your heart channel, all of them, all of those heart channels, and really turn up the juicy juice, choose like the candy, a choice of the candy, or the juice that ultimately makes you feel the juiciest. So just know anything that you choose to shift in life ultimately really takes 40 days. So my green smoothie challenge is 40 days. So once you commit to a challenge, it really takes 40 days. 40 days is the kicker to knock an old habit out of the ballpark. The first 30, fine, but the 10 after, that's like bam. So take some time to give it some space, whatever it is you're creating, and know that it's going to be a different being on the other side of you if you hold that space for at least 40 days. With our third eye online, there's some juicy water there too. Colors of blue, from the deeper blues, the purples, the oceanic dark blues, like deep water dark blues, those deep oceanic colors. And all of, my all-time favorite is periwinkle. So deep that these colors are so deep that they almost look so black until you see the hue of the shade of the blue or the purple. And with the seed sound of the day being Om, myself, I prefer the sound of silence for me, where darkness is my friend. I love that. It's just what I do. But intuition and wisdom and the shaman's portal. So there's so much shape-shifting and glamoring for the energy of the day. We got the movement of water and also stillness of it as well. So I would probably put a bowl of water out alongside the fire. That might be kind of curious and interesting. So the animal of the day I pulled in just because of the magic of the universe, and you're going to love this picture. Took me a minute to get things going this morning, but thanks for tuning in. But let's find her. There we go. Look at that. The stag. It's beautiful. So the stag is like, there's these esoteric meanings of the stag. Spiritual superiority, vigilance, swiftness, to change direction quickly, regeneration, rebirth, shape changing, grace, magical, and travel. So when you understand the deeper esoteric meanings of this symbolism, the energy gives you enough to work with. And what you need to consider is like the ancient sages and seers kind of created symbolic meanings that chose, they had certain attributes of different animals' natures and also their physical qualities. So there's a spiritual superiority with this animal that actually means self-realization, which actually enables us to raise our vibration. There really are no gods in the sky that you've got to get closer to before you are spiritually superior. So the deer horns are great. They're a great means of defending and asserting ourselves. This is when we're not being gentle like a deer, which they are part of the deer, but the horns don't represent aggression, even though they do use their antlers to ward off intruders and intruders that pose threats. But the antlers are actually linked with regeneration, the death and the rebirth, Pluto energy, because they fall off and grow again. So this really is symbolic. It's a reference of this that relates to the transformation energy or the transformation of energy, which is what happens when we grow spiritually or come to a moment of self-realization. So the deers themselves do symbolize aggression only in terms of motivating others to change. And breaking those habitual behaviors requires a lot of courage. So if you see the synchronicity of the deer in a short space of time, it could be a reminder that for you to kind of adopt different aspects of their nature in those right moments. And gentleness also has another meaning. So it's the innate nature of the deer is sensitivity and also intuition. When exoteric interpretations give a symbolic meaning like gentle, it might be an acronym, like gentleness would mean sensitive, not gentle. So another example of an acronym is graceful, but it could also mean nimble, which we would also see in other terms given for the deer. Swiftness with the ability to change direction rather quickly. So what this refers to is having a flexible and quick thinking state of mind and the ability to explore problems that you might be facing from more than one angle. And that right there is a gift that makes the process of individuation a lot easier. So it really is the ability to be flexible and think quickly on your feet. And it also stands you in a good steed in social environments. An easygoing nature is an advantage for building those relationships. However, the magic element, the shape changing and the travel also refer to the same thing, energy, which is constantly flowing and changing within us. So energy travels from cell to cell, carrying all this information. So if you change the information in your energy, you also change with it. So, it's your physical, mental, and emotional being is similar to the jackknife of a boy in a story, and the knife that had 3 new handles, 7 new blades replaced within the years of ownership. But we might call it the same old knife. So we shift and we change through time and space. But your real true self, your real self, is not the vehicle in which you occupy your beingness. This comes from the inner secret of or something within, which is kind of a curious title in itself. But self-development really involves changing our thoughts, our actions, our emotions that really don't serve us. So thoughts, actions, and emotions themselves are energy, and energy transforms, and all energy has potentials. So this essentially with what the stag and the deer represent. has this kind of energy. So once you understand the foundations of the symbolism of the stag, you can use it as a tool for identifying problems in your life and deciding on the best cause of action. So this might be a decision that you have to make, or even a weakness in yourself that you need to shift or change. So for example, if you have a problem that leaves you with negative emotions and a chaotic head, being able to interpret a symbol will assist you to guide you towards a solution. So the reason for this is because the unconscious speaks to us in symbols. So if you've ever had a weird dream that you can't really work out, you're going to know this to be true. So you're just being able to work out the symbolism in the dreams, for example, and that's kind of a major advantage for us. So to identify different esoteric meanings of symbols, you really need to dig in a little deeper than accepting just the basic interpretation offered by organized institutions like religions and academias and cults and societies. A lot of these groups offer misleading information. So the deer, they typically play their part in various world mythologies as an animal of the hunt and the chase. In psychological terms, this means looking for a part of you that is missing and exploring your unconscious for it. So you need to be vigilant and also swift. In the European mythology, the deer are associated with the gods and the goddesses of hunting, like Artemis, and the Roman equivalent of Diana have a deer as their chief symbol. They're symbolic of that. So, yeah, the deer. So even in the Celtic meaning, the myth of the deer relates to the feminine principle of gentleness and grace. But we also find the shape-shifting regeneration reference here too. So it's really about transformation into a deer, or a deer turned into women to avoid being hunted. So it's all about living love-based within our emotions, aspects of the feminine principle, care, nurturing, and dedication. So those are like feminine principles associated with our intuition. So the sighting of a deer is also a sign to pay more attention to our inner wisdom. And on a deeper level, to love another human being unconditionally really requires us to be connected to our inner core, our own inner heart drive. So love is not only about passion and care towards your lover, but also about, more importantly, loving yourself without shame or guilt. The stag is also a generative power of the male principle, where thoughts plant seeds that have the potential to blossom into something beautiful. So this really is this magical aspect of conscious. And when you know how to transform thoughts into things, you can say you are blessed with spiritual superiority. So yes, anyway, tune into the stag today. There's lots of stuff online you can pull up. That's kind of just what I went with. So with that, now, because we are having an otherworldly day, of course, I went with my fairy deck. Of course, right? It's the otherworldly fairies. I love the fairies. God knows I do. It's just my thing. But the first card I pulled is part of the Singers of the Realm. The Singers of the Realm, they are like angels, angels that transcend every religion, every philosophy, and every creed. In fact, honestly, most angels have zero religion as we know it. It's their existence kind of precedes energy in every religious system that ever existed on the earth plane. But these are the great ones. Their wings span the multiverse in all dimensions and in all directions. They have a multitude of names that we're the ones giving them to them, but names to me are like labels, but they are constantly with us, and their energy is compassion. They're always available to each and every one of us. But today I pulled Unity. And so Unity, it's actually one of the first cards in this arena. But Unity comes first, and it also comes last. So it's the in-between, where we have the illusion of duality, which is we all believe in for a very long time. But this duality is ultimately shown to be this illusion. But it's this illusion through which we kind of have to go through. We have to pass through it in order for us to learn and grow. And once again, we get to return back to unity. So you might have had some mystical experiences where you've had a true union with other beings and even with the unity itself, the one who is all. So these experiences change our lives, effectively kind of showing us that the same things that we are all one is not just a belief, but it really is a statement of an actual fact. So we're not separate like the flowers in the field, but we are one. And the only way to reach this awareness is really to surrender the small, everyday self to the larger spiritual self, our Sira, what we look like in the other dimension, which is unity itself. Experiencing oneness with the unity is kind of very transformative, actually. So just looking at this card, you might notice all that power is focused in here, like in the center. It's these vast energies. It's as if all the power is looking for a place to actually happen. And that's exactly what's really energetically going on. So unity is the energy of the cosmos, the cosmic field, the galactic, frontier is kind of what I call it, but it's still unmanifest and still without form. So here we see the dark and we see the light, we see the masculine, the feminine, the active, the passive, and et cetera, and all of these other polarities that are expressed in balance. So it's this energetic field of this vibrant union. All that is one, and that one is God herself. And from this, all else kind of derives and actually comes from its birth. So this is the source from which we kind of draw our strength and our very beingness. So we might have become overly focused on differences and different disagreements, if you will, that really seem to separate us from the others. And so this might be preventing us literally from achieving our own potential. So it's always staying in connection with source. So how do we fulfill ourselves or have fulfillment and also happiness? That's how we do it. We have to stay connected to source. So we might even feel alienated, unwanted, or even lonely. And if that's so, we really need to refocus on what we have in common with those around us, whether they're far or near, animals, trees, doesn't really matter, people of all things. So we need to heal our own attitudes and also our beliefs that kind of contribute to these feelings of separation, of being separate. So we could use what we consider, how we might find like reconciliation with others, water. We have to get into the waters. Forgiveness actually might be the key itself to access this, where prejudice or judgmental or even a critical attitude of self or others, all that does is push us farther and farther into the delusion of separateness and also loneliness. So it's really saying to move towards allowing others to actually be closer to us, gradually dropping the defensive attitudes that hold them away or at bay, those boundaries that keep us alone. And don't wait for others to make the first move towards the reconciliation, the peace, and the clarity and the unity and that connection, but literally reach out to them with compassion and selflessness, and it might be difficult. It could be actually very difficult at first, honestly. But it actually kind of requires a lot of inner work, that shadow work, some self-study. Go into your own personal self-study hall, possibly even with the help of somebody who's skilled at teaching, or even a therapist or a spiritual life coach. So in meditation or prayer, you can just ask to be in community with unity deep within yourself. In the unity, there's the trust, the love, and even ecstasy. So that's kind of the energy of unity. So ironically enough, the next card I pulled is the Singers of Intuition, which that's the energy of today with the third eye open. So this is the song of the singer that carries all of the information that there is in the cabinet in the sky, the library in the sky. Sometimes it's called the Akashic Records. The Book of Life is there. It's just a full-on library, actually. And we can go there with ourselves all by ourselves in order to get information either intuitively or psychically. So this sound and the song is actually, it's in our blood, it's in our bones, it's in our flesh. So it's within the rest of this galactic universe herself. So when we're practicing stillness, more than likely through meditation and listening, then we're sitting and we're asking and then we're listening. And that really is the ability to understand and interpret all of those symbols of the universe. There are other worldly symbols. It's the symbols beyond the material, symbols of elements and oracles and stars and omens and portents and even the movement of the stars, which really is the galactic highway, right? It's the galactic corridor. So they are all part of this one piece of this one little snippet of this one little song. And they're also part of us, and we are also part of them. So understanding them truly is just a matter of learning to be still, to ask, take a breath, take a pause, and also to listen. But I pulled all these cards today reversed, if you haven't noticed. So when the song of the singer seems especially kind of obscure, that's indicated by it being reversed. So we need to actually ask ourselves, how can I learn to be more quiet within myself? That's clearing out cosmic energetic debris. Or how could you learn to be more peaceful within yourself? Or how can I better listen to the song of knowledge and also the song of wisdom, intuition? Our third eye is open, right? So just know that all these meanings are meant to be clear at once. They're not meant to be actually, it takes time and space. Some ideas take time. Some words are really designed to lead us on inner journeys with the truth hidden deep within our beingness, within ourselves, and also inside of them. So that's the journey to go inward and listen to your soul, actually. It's kind of the message I'm getting for this one. Whoopsie. And then I pulled this beautiful, look at that cute butt cheek. She's even got a nice tattoo of a flower there. But I pulled the Bright Mother, and the Bright Mother she's part of the she, the people of the hills, the lords and the ladies of the realm of fairy. They're the old ones. So the she dance, but they do it to mediate the powerful energies of the singers through the dance and to bring them into manifestation throughout the world. So they do it for the pure essence of joy, for the joy of it, simply the joy of it. And they have this greater alchemical kind of art, alchemy and art, that's within the dance itself. So they're the ones who create, nurture, and build the worlds and the inhabitants of all those worlds. But they're also available to us individually and also as guardians and teachers, and they bring us comfort. And they really enjoy creating these miracles, frequent miracles as well. But the Bright Mother herself, she's the mother of us all. She knows that life, all of life itself, is a miracle, and she's constantly amazed at the perfection in the imperfection. So she rejoices in its being and sorrows for its growing pains, and actually she becomes exalted within those successes. So this amazing lady is both an earth mother and also a full bright moon mother herself, and she's pregnant with the future of all growing things. So she feeds us and provides us with air and water and shelter in this amazing kind of complex, crazy world. But she sees it that we are, she likes to see that we're challenged enough to grow, but not so much to be overwhelmed. So if we want more challenges, then, she could provide them, but we have to actually give those to ourselves. So the Bright Mother is the guardian of family life, the tree of life, and she creates and holds this nurturing environment for all of us. So she is the garden. She's the garden where the vegetables and the fruits and the herbs grow. And she sees and holds the mysteries in our ordinary processes of daily life. The ones like the bees making honey or, turning cream to butter. I actually did that in my childhood. Super cool. It's also the birth of a baby going to its growth, right? The 9 months or so. blossoming of fruit, or the blossom turning to fruit, I should say, and the ripening of the wheats. So this lady has this loving patience for just natural processes, nature herself, however slow it might be, and her commitment to us for life, her eternal life. It's not our ephemeral life in the flesh being in the flesh, the physical. So she's present in all of our deep and committed relationships. She's like the facilitator of nurturing and loving and creativity and also giving. And she fosters within us this kind of security that gives us the inner stability that we need to explore and adventure out into the world and within our own psyches, our own beingness. So she reminds us that there's times when we must put ourselves first or others first because their need is also great. But also in doing that, we also shouldn't lose sight of our own needs and our own nurturing. You know, it's like when we open up to give, we also have to open up to receive. So it's almost like we need to give to ourselves first in order to open up to others. But she's someone who keeps her eye on all the things, making sure that we're doing everything that we need to do. You know her by the joy in her heart, and she helps in our heads. So we really can have it all, but all we have to do is ask. And for like a third key word about her, it's able. She's able to carry, she's able to care, she's able to nurture. And one last thing, people, people tend to project their own experiences with mother and mothering on her. And sometimes this helps us to see her more clearly or with clarity, but often it really creates mud in the waters. You know, not all mothers are good and wise. However, this bright mother truly is. And each time we perform a compassionate act of nurturing, we then become more like the bright mother herself. We're learning unconditional giving as well. But again, I pulled this card reversed. So these ideas also apply to men as well as women. And they can even apply to institutions like churches and governments and businesses and even charities and different social groups. But when we are blocking this bright mother's energy in our lives, we really have difficulty giving or receiving that nurturing aspect. So this might manifest itself physically as well as emotionally. It could mean physical problems like digestive or eating disorders, or emotional difficulties with giving care or receiving care from others. So it's about that balance. So we might even also be unclear about our own personal emotional boundaries, which is the energy of the season of Scorpio, is boundaries herself. So when her energy is kind of twisted, then we see this smothering mother who really refuses to let those within her care, her children, grow up and become independent. It's really crippling them in their adult life, or it might even warp their energy where they become the martyr mother who sacrifices everything for you, whether you want it or not. And then on the other hand, expects you to sacrifice everything for her forever. So if we find in ourselves tendencies to actually do these things, we really need to change both of our habits and our deep programming, which again is going to probably require some professional help. I would go to a spiritual life coach myself. Spiritual, yes. And at worst, the energy of the bright mother becomes a fire of destruction, creating energetic burnout where there should be nurturing. And when this happens, we really give until we are literally exhausted. We've burned ourselves out. And we don't take time to nurture ourselves or allow others to do that either. Then we have like this rage or this cruelty kind of gets directed at those who rightfully depend upon us. It falls into this extreme category as well, where you do too much. So key words for these three, like unity, union, mystical experience. It's the spiritual home, the otherworldly home, the intuition channel, the singers of the intuition. That's like moving through the trial or the trail. It's triumphant. It's a new level. Maybe your intuition is opening up to a new beacon today. And the mother here, she's like creativity. It's nurturing productivity. It's earth. It's intimacy. It's sheltering. So with the singers, it really is a sign to end our inner spiritual frequencies or energies and habits that squash or lower our vibration. So really be compassionate and forgiving to yourself. Also with the bright mother, I would say go foraging with your heart and find inner happiness and nurture your own inner garden, if you will. So in your cosmic soup, really remove those lower vibrations and add the ingredients of love and gratitude into your heart's chalice and really commit to those offerings. And within your soul, your sacred space, make a commitment or decide to commit to ending and cutting the cords to all of those spiritual cycles, those endless ones that ultimately aren't serving you at all. So it's like the ingredients that lower your vibration and your frequency. It's time to upcycle those debris to cycles of love and prosperity. I would call that your inner genius, ingenuity, and just open the channel to prosper through actually loving yourself and manifesting self-love in the physical. So I would say I affirm that I am open to creating a new frequency and vibration with the singers of the universe, specifically unity and the singer of intuition, bringing in the bright mother herself, the nurturing queen of them all, with that cute little tush. And as far as a ritual for today, I would light a candle if you can't do a bonfire. I would call in your ancestors, the loved ones that have passed before you, or even friends, it doesn't really matter. And ask for their guidance on something important in your life that matters at the moment, or simply just ask for their presence because the veil is thin. So this truly is the perfect time to literally reach out to them. It's a day where we have the return of the darkness, the thinning of the veil, the start of winter, the endings and the beginnings, the death and the rebirth, the transformation station. So we're having this complete change. The things are completing. There's this heightened otherworldly magic, this energy on the other side. And more importantly, we're here to really honor our ancestors and just be in gratitude for the things they have done instead of the otherworldly. Sometimes people get so nasty. But anyway, I don't want to go down the rabbit hole. So do a ritual, call in your ancestors, be a beacon, be unconditional, be foraging or forgiving, and make it a magical day. InShalla, Ashe. I'm super stoked. Maybe I'll show a picture of a bonfire later. But thanks for tuning in. Thanks for letting me muse with you today, even though I was an hour late. Thanks for hopping on. InShalla, Ashe.